is it just me, or does anyone else get super overwhelmed at the number of social media platforms there are to keep up with these days? I definitely do, but I also know that it's important to be visible and add value in order to attract new clients and people that I can serve. So today I'm going to share some of my favorite tricks for creating more content in less time so you can be more visible to the people that you are meant to serve. Okay, before we get into today's episode, I have something really exciting to share. You have heard me talk about our six-figure school program, and we only open it twice a year. We are opening it for spring very, very soon. You know, podcasts are amazing. You can learn so much from them. If you're like me, you probably binge listen to so many different incredible podcasts. But if you're ready for a step-by-step plan, you're tired of figuring it out all on your own, and you just want someone to take you by the hand and show you exactly how to launch and scale your big idea to your first six figures, then this is for you. You also happen to get the most incredible, badass community of women who are going to support you and hold you accountable. So my favorite thing about the way we've designed Six Figure School is that you have access for the life of the program. So you get to learn and grow at your own pace. There's no such thing as falling behind, and there's really no such thing as joining too early, because no matter if your idea is just the tiny seed of inspiration or you've been at it for a while, you are going to get so much from this program and community that's going to help you go further faster. So if your heart is kind of racing and your palms are getting a little sweaty just hearing me talk about this, then something tells me this might be for you. And if you know you're ready to go all in on your big ideas, here's what I want you to do. The doors won't open for a few more days or weeks, depending on when you're hearing this message, but I want you to text me the word READY, READY, text me the word READY to 602-536-7829. And you're going to get first access to join when we open the doors, plus some exclusive bonuses that no one else is going to get. We only open this program, like I said, twice a year. And once the doors open, they are not open for long. So hit pause right now, send me a quick text. The number is in the show notes, and let's do this. Let's get you on the way to making your big idea a reality. Now, let's dive into today's episode. Welcome back to the podcast. I love talking about today's topic because it's one that I personally have had a major mindset shift around. Because here's the deal. We live in a very content-driven world right now. Social media, other platforms like podcasting, email marketing, blogging, and now there's Clubhouse, right? I don't even know. Is Clubhouse social media? We'll just call it social media. But if you're a business owner or you would like to be, producing content that connects with people that you want to serve is not optional. You have to have a way to share your message and reach the people that you want to impact. So I had this moment with myself where I decided I was going to stop complaining about how overwhelming it felt or how I'm just not good on social media, all of the excuses that I had really been allowing myself to use. And I decided, okay, if I'm really serious, which I am, about impacting the people in this community and the people who listen to this podcast, I'm going to reframe this for myself and find a way to make content work for me. So this episode is especially for those of you who can relate and who have ever had the thought of, I'm just not good at social media, or I don't like it, I don't have the time. I'm like, trust me, I've used all of those excuses or all of those reasons, and they were true. However, like I said, I got to the point, and maybe you're getting to this point too, where you're like, well, okay, but I don't really have a choice. This is a part of our world. This is a part of growing a business. So how can I make this work for me? Now, some of you might actually have no problem at all creating content. Maybe that's actually a really big zone of genius for you. There's still going to be things for you to gain from this conversation that are going to help you take what you already do in your content strategy and produce more, be more visible. So I am going to break this down in terms of some of the things that I started to implement over this past year that have helped me to be more visible on more platforms, but not necessarily by creating more work for myself. I think that was the misconception that I always had, that in order to be, I've heard the term omnipresent used, like in order to appear as though our brand or our content was showing up on all these different platforms and people were seeing it all the time, I had to be 24/7. Writing posts, recording videos, recording podcasts, and that just wasn't doable, right? We have so many other factors to our business. I have to be working in my business. I don't always have time to be like recording and doing the content strategy stuff. So if that's been a big hang up for you as well, I'm going to give you some massive permission around this today. Are you ready? Okay, so I'm going to give you 3 of my favorite ways to create more content in less time. And some of these you might be using, some you might know, some might surprise you, but I want you to start paying attention to, if you look at even on our Instagram strategy, we have the Powerhouse Women account, and then I also have a personal account. So it's 2 different platforms I'm creating content for. Plus, we have a podcast, we have an email list, we have a text list, we have all these places that are touch points that we get to connect with all of you. And we're a very content-driven brand. If we just disappeared and we weren't showing up on these channels, you would probably forget about us. Some of you might not. Some of you are, maybe diehards that you wouldn't forget that we exist. But for the most part, right? If you don't see people, if you don't see brands, it's kind of out of sight, out of mind. So I knew that in order to really serve in the way we wanted to, it was really important for us to seem like we were very present on all the different channels that our community is on. So this only really matters to the platforms and the channels that the people you want to reach are paying attention to. So for example, if your demographic, the people you want to impact, aren't on a certain social media platform, then you don't have to worry about that one. Start with the platforms that make sense for your brand. But my hope is that by incorporating one of these 3 strategies I'm going to share, that you can actually see an easy way to show up in more places than you currently are. Because you never know, you could right now be missing the opportunity to impact some people that you really are meant to impact, simply because you aren't visible in the places that they're currently paying attention to. So here are 3 of my favorite ways to create more content in less time, be more visible, and just give myself a better opportunity to interact with the people who we really want to serve. Okay, the first one is, I think one of the things that stopped me in the past was I was confused about what topics to talk about. I would, talk about maybe one topic and think, okay, well, I can't ever revisit that one again, or I can't revisit that in a short period of time because I already talked about that. But something you're going to hear me talk about a lot when we go through this, especially when it comes to things like your social media channels, is remembering that not everyone is seeing and reading every post that you make. So even if you're rotating through some topics that become themes within your brand, you're not going to, if it's valuable, you're not going to have people tune out if you're continuing to share on similar topics. So one of the ways to kind of come up with okay, what are these themes that I could rotate through and really become known for is, my favorite thing, I talk about this a lot, is to get feedback, right? Ask people directly what they want to hear. Or sometimes just by listening and paying attention to the questions that you hear a lot, the comments that come through your DMs or that come through the comment section on some of your posts, the replies to emails that you send, or, for us, I love to ask feedback from our text mentorship list. And that's a great place that when I'm looking for new inspiration around how we can serve, I will just ask. Another way that if you're in the early stages of building your following, let's say you have a smaller audience on these different platforms and you're like, well, when I ask for feedback, I really kind of hear crickets. No big deal. I've got you. I can relate to being there as well. One of the things that you can do is you can kind of be a creeper. And I mean this in a good way. I mean this in a positive way. Find someone who has a similar audience and similar demographic to the people that you want to reach, and start to pay attention to the comments that are happening below their posts. Start to notice what questions people are asking in the comments below their posts. And, it's not like you're trying to poach their audience or their customers. It just gives you insight into the person who fits the demographic of who you want to impact. What are they wondering about right now? What are they struggling with? How could you serve them through your content? So if you're confused on what topics to cover, I want you to remember this. It always is the best thing, like the best way to get started, just to ask people what they want to hear more of, or find that answer in other people's comments, their, communities, anywhere that the people you want to reach are hanging out. Use that as inspiration. And then, you always can remember that you can cover topics multiple times. In fact, I think it's actually a really great thing if you become known for talking about, maybe it's 3 to 5 core things that people know when they come to your page. You're talking about growing a business or overcoming imposter syndrome. Maybe you're a mom and that's a topic you talk about and show different parts of your life. So having these themes and having them inspired by the people that you want to serve is such a great place to start. And in my experience, you never run out of topics to cover and create content around when you're really, really listening. So that was the first thing that I started to do, and it was such a game changer. Then I took the feedback that I gathered and some of the ideas that were generated by listening to our community, and then I did the second thing that I'm going to talk about. So it was overwhelming for me to think about creating all these different pieces of content for all these different platforms. I don't know, my brain just doesn't work that way. It was overwhelming to say the least. And so I said, okay, what if I just focus on one main platform that I'm going to create a piece of content for? So the podcast, this platform right here, is actually my favorite. I am so much more of a verbal processor than I am a writer. It takes me longer to sit down and write something than it does just to, hop on video or hop on a podcast and talk about it. So for me, I felt the least resistance around podcasting. So think about it for you. If it gives you a lot of anxiety to show up on a video or to record a podcast, but maybe you love writing, then for you, maybe it's a longer form blog or a longer form caption for an Instagram post where you're teaching something. So it doesn't matter what you start with. Just think of something where you can answer a question and kind of do a deeper dive into it. So for me, an example is a lot of times I'll start with writing a podcast episode. And then from there, I look at where I can take that first piece of content, so a podcast, and now how can I take that same work I just put in and use it in other places? So a couple of examples of how I might do this. So the other day, this was actually one that started as an Instagram caption, but I was writing the Instagram caption knowing I would record a podcast from it. So sometimes those two for me are interchangeable. So I wrote an Instagram caption all about what I do when I feel overwhelmed. So I feel like overwhelm is now all of a sudden a theme. We're going to talk about this in another episode coming soon. But I was feeling completely overwhelmed with everything I had to do that week and wanted to accomplish. So I wrote a quick post of reminding myself what helps me work through that feeling of overwhelm. posted it to my personal page. Then I went and I immediately copied and pasted that caption into a document to use as the outline for a podcast I'm going to record. Now, because this was something where it was like very tangible, like step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, I'm also going to repurpose that in a few weeks on our Powerhouse Women Instagram page. But instead of posting it, on my personal page, it was a photo of me and then the caption down below. Instead of doing that, I'm actually going to have my graphic designer turn it into what's called a carousel. So it's one of those where you have to like swipe through and you have one tip on each little image within Instagram, and it just gives a little bit more interactivity. It's a different way to present the same information. Now, with something like this where I'm teaching and there's like a 3 or 4 bullets and it's something short and very actionable, a lot of times I'll also take that and I'll repurpose it for email copy. So in a few weeks after that, I'll send it out as an email to our list. And then we also have our text mentorship where, because those messages are limited, I'm limited to 400 characters with a text, then I might actually break those 4 points down into 4 different pieces of content that go out to our text list and spread them over 4 different days. So you can start to hear how I did the work once to sit down and think about, okay, what do I do when I feel overwhelmed? What helps me work through this feeling? And now I have 2 different pieces of Instagram content for 2 different platforms. I have a podcast episode. I have email copy. I have text mentorship copy. And here's the thing. I was actually talking with someone this week, and I forget who it was, but they said, well, I can't just share this exact same content on my personal page that I do on my business page. And I was like, why not? Right? If we're talking about topics that are things we're passionate about and it's relevant for our business, why not share it in both places? Just put a different spin on it. So just like I said, if I don't usually share the exact same post in the exact same way, and I don't share it on the exact same day either. I'll space it out so it feels fresh. But all I do is sometimes I'll use the caption under a photo, and then sometimes I'll flip it and I'll actually turn that caption into the image itself, or if it's a quote or something like that. So there's so much you can do, but I think the fear here is that people would notice that we're repurposing things. And the truth is they don't. People don't notice. At least no one has ever complained that I've shared a similar message in different places. In fact, if it were me, right, we're all bombarded by so much content during the day that I'm usually grateful. If it's a really great tip and something I definitely don't want to miss, I'm grateful that that person shared it again because I might have missed it the first time. So the key to being more present, more visible, doesn't mean creating brand new, fresh content every time, every post, every email. You're already doing the work once. Now, where can you give that piece of content or that idea or that training more life and use it across multiple platforms? One of my favorite things to do, and the fear I had was just what I said, that people would notice or it would look like, I wasn't working hard or wasn't coming up with enough value. But remember, people are distracted. They're definitely not going to notice. And this actually brings me to my 3rd tip. And this is one that when I tell people this, I don't know why they're surprised, but it goes to show that no one notices unless I specifically point it out to them. The 3rd one is this. When I am feeling a little bit in a content rut, when I've had one of those weeks where I'm like, I don't know, like I can't even think about what to post. Here's what I do. Legit, I do this all the time, and I bet you haven't noticed. I will go back 6 months, a year, and I'll find a post. You know those posts that you do like on Instagram or whatever your favorite social media platform is, and like I'll have these days where I'm like, wow, that was a good post. Like that day it just came easily and I felt like that added a lot of value. I'll go find a great post that I have done 6 months or a year ago, and I'll just literally copy the exact same caption and I'll put it with a different image. Exact same words. I don't change them. Sometimes I'll tweak them just a little bit to make it relevant or, just give it a little bit of a different spin. But sometimes if I'm just really like not in the mood to think, I will literally share the exact same content. And again, it's like The only reason I wasn't doing that before was thinking, well, okay, people are going to notice, or, oh, isn't that like, no one notices. I promise you, no one notices. And you're constantly attracting new people to your audience who didn't see the post 6 months ago, unless they like really went down and did like a full Instagram stalk and looked at every post you've ever done. So don't forget, it doesn't have to be as complicated as sometimes I know I make it for myself. Maybe you've been guilty of doing the same. So don't overcomplicate the process. You can do this. And as my friend Jen Gottlieb says, it is your responsibility to let people know how you can serve them. It's your responsibility to tell them exactly the value that you can offer. And one of the most powerful ways to do that is through our content strategy. So I want to know which one of these you are going to implement this week. So you can reach out to me on social media, through our Powerhouse Women Instagram, through my personal Instagram. We link all of that in the show notes. I want to know like which one of these is really like angels are singing, because it's like, so it's such a reminder that like it doesn't have to be that complicated. I want you to tell me. So the other thing is, we've been talking a lot about our 6-figure school program because it opens soon, and you will hear me talk a lot about it. I'm obsessed with it. This is my favorite program, hands down, that we offer. And one of the most popular tools that we share within that program is a content planner that actually helps you create ideas for content that will last you an entire year. So I had to plug that because it's one of the most valuable resources that comes with this course. And I would seriously love to have you join us for the next round. In fact, if you know that you're ready, I included this in the little teaser that we did before this episode, but I'm going to give it to you again, the number to text me. And here's what I want you to know. You can legit text me there and ask me your questions. I am the only one who answers those texts. It really is me answering. So when you send a text, I really do see it and I will answer. So it's a great place just to ask if you have questions, or you're wondering, gosh, I don't know, is this for me? Is my business at the right place? Or I don't have a business yet. Is this the right place for me, or should I wait? Any of those questions, you can always text me here. So all you have to do is text me the word ready to 602-3, let me try that again. Don't text it there. 602-536-7829. And if you're outside of the US and Canada, you can actually join our waitlist through the link in the show notes. So you can find us both ways. And here's what I want you to know. If you're really listening to this going, okay, this whole content strategy thing, yes, I'm going to get serious about this. And you need some accountability. You're ready to make the impact that you want to make. I'm here to tell you, this absolutely is your year, and you do not have to do any of this alone.